Hey. It is not new news that FPS games rely on their player base to be able to master their movement and their shooting skills to be able to master the game's mechanics as a whole. In FPS games, there are three main cores that all players must understand to be able to do decently. One is shooting good, number two is moving good, number three is the game sense. So it is absolutely no surprise mastering all three of these can lead you to the top of some leaderboards in those games. So it is absolutely no surprise that since the very first inception of the FPS genre, that there are certain weapons within those games that carry an air of prestige within them, where one shot might equal one kill. In some cases, these weapons can take hours, if not hundreds of hours, to begin to master, find the indices, really get into the nitty-gritty of it, what makes that weapon good, and why that specific weapon might lead you into a different playstyle entirely. So it is without any hesitation, it can be immediately frustrating to have someone with absolutely no skill, no aim, no good movement, no good positioning, no game sense, to just run up to you M1+W. The very fact that you decided to click on the video probably means that you're either, number one, hearing what I've got to say for the rage bait, or number two, quite simply, you're kind of interested in how this can actually be a viable strategy and why it isn't so evil as people are making it out to be. So, with all that being said, realistically, I'm going to make one singular point during this entire video, which we'll loop back round to, is that Pyro dominates the casual lobbies, not because you're bad, it's because he is a fantastic class to ambush with. As someone who's been playing Team Fortress on and off for the last 10 or so years, I like to think I've got a good enough understanding of what the competitive scene sort of understands as a good Pyro, and what the casual scene understands as a, quote, good Pyro, not just the M1+W mess. Realistically, Pyro isn't exactly the king of casual as we seem to be making him out to be, when in reality, lesser results can be proved from people like Demo Knights, Scouts, Heavies, other classes. So, with all this being set up and said, let's get into the real meat and potatoes of the video. Casual is the entry point for all TF2 players. It is the first button you are presented with, and there is no barrier whatsoever for playing casual game modes. There's nothing. You can quite literally hop in, go in, and be playing with the likes of Pablo Gonzalez 2007 and the 3000 hour soldier me. Because me and you have both seen this. A soldier with maybe 500 hours on him can absolutely decimate a lobby entirely. And it's really stupid to say, but it's because casual's filled with casual players, less experienced players who don't really care. So, being dominated by a Pyro, well, you're being dominated by a lot of classes anyway. Number two, primarily, is funny enough, the fire-type properties that Pyro deals out. When you are hit with the fantastic durability from the sniper, the effects are as follows. Your screen goes yellow. You take mini crits. Your character decides to scream about how terrible it is to be covered in piss. In the same sense, Pyro almost serves the same purpose. When you are hit with any type of fire damage, your screen bobs up and down. The sides of your screen become red and inflamed, and your character will scream about what it is to be on fire. Already in a stressful fight, both of these entities prove to be a little bit more of upping the ante and giving a little bit more worry to you. So, it is already understandable that perhaps as a new player where you're already used to just doing perhaps a little 1v1 on a little Call of Duty or another game, if someone sets you on fire, covering your screen within fire and bumping up and down your aim, it can be a little bit stressful, giving the Pyro a little bit of advantage over just a heavy standing in front of you and shooting you. Moreover yet, the Pyro's flamethrower actually encompasses a lot of his own body when it begins to shoot. If you are unexperienced, it can be a little bit difficult to start shooting back at the Pyro. So, let's move on to the Pyro himself. It would be a disservice not to talk about him during this entire procedure. He is, of course, the point of the video, and he is the central aggressor that we're trying to talk about for all of this. As I said at the start of the video, aim is king. And especially in FPS games, it is the de facto way to be able to play it. If you have bad aim, bad movement, you more or less can't play in some instances. Pyro is an interesting case in all of this. He doesn't exactly exceed a long-distance rangefighter like the sniper, but he is more or less the king of his own area. I don't like to think of Pyro as this close-range monster. I've designated Pyro his own kill zone trademark. Now, a kill zone is really important for Pyro players, because anything within that sphere, that zone, is going to be more or less torched and killed. not only to say, but as long as you are tracking your target within your kill zone, you're going to be securing kills better than other classes. Not only that, but Pyro only has one flamethrower that does not jut out a continuous flame to track down your enemies with. It's almost enforced to be able to get in the kill zone, track the enemy. So in the case of weapons, all of Pyro's weapons serve a specific purpose. There are hundreds and hundreds of deep dives into those videos, but just to go over a few, the stock flamethrower comes with it by default a reflect, which is a complete counter to the projectile classes. The flog, after a certain amount of fire damage, guarantees you absolute carnage within an enclosed space. That is a map counter. And then to tidy up with a few of the extra flare guns, rocket jumpers, hell, even the gas passer, it's all about closing a distance and increasing your kill zone within the target you are trying to track. This, really, in a nutshell, gives Pyro a lot of options to be able to secure a larger sphere of influence within the map that he's deciding to play within. And if they're weapons added by Valve, then, well, I can only assume that they're enforced by game design. You can't not use them. As for the brain-dead style that Pyro seems to get a hell of a lot of, I took a good amount of time, and I mean really good amount of time, maybe at least 30 hours over stream, interviewing players in and out on their experience playing the Pyro. I took a carefully sampled pool of people with about 30 hours, upwards to, I'm not even kidding you, some 800-hour Pyro mains. But the one thing I kept coming back for a lot of the casual ones, even some with high amount of hours played, is more or less this sentence. I don't care that I died, I killed that guy. And that's fine if you don't care. I mean, look at all the stupid stuff I can do when I don't care. In-game and in editing. Just look! Well, I don't care, I killed the guy. Casual itself doesn't really enforce this pressure that competitive game modes do. There is no team cohesion that has to take place if you be able to win. Casual game modes don't enforce team play in the way that we love to think of it. Though it says in the title the game is called Team Fortress 2, realistically, in the rare moments there is a team push, we call it a pup push. And for those who don't know TF2 super well, it's when the timer literally hits 0 and suddenly the neurons fire within the brain, everybody jumps on the point together. A team move, which you'd see in competitive without question. And that's simply because players are just enjoying the game within there. Realistically, how can you blame them? There's no pressure for them to do well, there's no penalty for them failing, so what's the point if they're just having fun and getting kills? They can afford to be aggressive. There's no penalty for not being aggressive. If you die, you die. You sit in the respawn queue. Your team's not going to miss you. Your team will push on. There'll be another push. So, if you see the gibbous spamming flog guy run in, get 3 kills and die, and you say, hey, that's M1 plus W trash, he'll go, I don't care. I just killed 3 guys, and I'll do it again, because look, it's working. I'm getting kills. That's my modicum. I'm up on the scoreboard. That's the way this is reviewed. And that will continue to happen until they choose to improve themselves after sitting in the respawn queue for too long, or it will continue forever. And it happens. I promise you, it happens. There is one user though who really opened my eye through all of this. It was bizarre because I watched them play and I joined in with them for a couple hours to play, and they were playing a completely different game of Team Fortress 2 to me. And I think it's really important to remember, despite your hours on there, you're playing a different game to those people. I have nearly 2,000 hours on the game, they have 200. It's a different sphere. So, they said, and I quote, Team Fortress games rarely ever feel like a loss. Sure, you can lose the match, but I didn't care because I was doing well. I get the feeling Team Fortress isn't much of a team game. There isn't much coordination in the casual lobby, so personally, I matter more. I guess as long as I'm getting in there, killing loads of guys, it doesn't even matter if I die doing it. My team won't miss me. There it is. What I'm trying to get at here is that it's super important to see that casual promotes a different playstyle for different people and their classes. It is wholly different from what is expected within the competitive scene. Let's wrap back around to that main point. Casual lobbies are dominated by Pyro's ambushing, not M1 plus W. In a competitive format, unless you're making 200 IQ godly plays, you're not going to get the essence of surprise on someone who has played this game for thousands and thousands of hours. Look, try telling your competitive team that it doesn't matter you died, you totally killed 2 of their guys. They're not going to be happy with that. So, with all this in mind, and with my teeny tiny little niche micro celebrity status, I actually took into the competitive scene, hopped into the Season Lander event, and interviewed 2 Pyros that were within our match. Privateer and BluGalaxian, 2 of the most dastardly Pyros I've had the pleasure of playing with. So, I took my time and asked them first a couple questions. My first question to them was, why do you think Pyro gets this M1 plus W trash talk spoken about it in a mean manner? Pyroteer states, Pyro is easier to pick up and play for a multitude of reasons. A Pyro can bang out a 4 out of 10 performance, but a sniper most certainly will only be getting a 0 if they are new to the game. Pyro can be taught really easily what weapons work best and what to do against other classes. As long as they are mediocre at best, they'll be a much better player in that time compared to, say, a demo man. If they're taught spacing, reflex, and when to be aggressive, you have yourself a good Pyro. BluGalaxian said, it's more of a blanket insult to those types of Pyros in general. Pyros are, by default, the close-range DPS, whereas a soldier or a demo differ on the scale for defensive or offensive DPS. If a good player fights a Pyro, it's usually all at range. I think for casual too, you need to have a lot of playtime behind the other classes to understand. It can be hard for, say, a soldier with 50 hours playtime not to hold on your own M1 at the Pyro. I then decided to propose BluGalaxian a quote that I had of the person I interviewed earlier, stating, I don't care about the dying, as long as I got a few kills. He stated, well, that's a good mentality to have for Pyro. Afterburn is a great tool, and it's in your kit as a Pyro. Fighting a Pyro can take a huge toll on yourself, so fighting on the front line can cause enemies to retreat to grab those health kits. Playing on the front line is great. You can deny them health with the Afterburn, and projectiles with the air blasting. I then posed them a separate question of someone who was quite annoyed during the game, stating Pyros are, naughty word, I can't play sniper against them. He screws with my aim and I die to burn damage all the time. Just remove him. Pyroteer states, I think it's just that Pyro is annoying to play against, especially Scorch Shot and Afterburn, and it punishes bad positioning and bad game sense, also known as Pyro is good against newer players. Sometimes, if you get caught by a Pyro, you're just dead. And when the Pyro is just running around spraying flames wildly, it's not really considered skillful. BluGalaxian stated, well, that sniper really had no idea at all. It sounded like he had no idea what the danger shield or the Girardi is. Sniper does require some practice to get his potential out. So, briefly, in a nutshell then, the Pyro, whilst being the M1 plus W king, really does get a lot more benefits than the other classes in Team Fortress 2. Being aggressive, being in a casual sense, you are posed a bit of a better advantage against other players. So, thank you again for stopping by. This video has taken far too long to make with a lot of recording, and even so, changing recording software and my editing software halfway through. It is, of course, with a massive disclaimer that this video shouldn't be used as some sort of caveat for you being killed and being bad at the game. It really should be used as more of a, here's a little discussion into that mentality of where that little MW1 bit comes from, right? I want to thank everyone who sent me footage to be able to record. I'm thankful for everyone who allowed me to interview them. These videos are less more about getting the sick YouTube algorithm. It's literally more about finding out what people are thinking about the game that you're playing. It's fun to look into this, and I think I've actually had a lot more eye-opening experiences into, I don't care, I'm going to have fun in my game. A lot of these clips were recorded over at my Twitch, which is twitch.tv/tearsfultv. Come along, we're always playing Team Fortress 2 or something similar, having a stupid old time. It'd be in the world if you can come. Give me your opinions on it. If not, drop down in the comments below what you thought about it. Let's start a discussion on it. Stay civil, don't be flaming, don't be that casual player. Do I drop them? What do I do? Do I just drop the microphone and leave? What? I'm trapped in here.